When people look back at their wild young lives, they may have many regrets. But for me, my regret was not having a wild young life. When many of you were drinking at parties, I was selling watches and swap meets so I can pay my rent and tuition. So of course, I never developed the habit of drinking. So even though I had that Tom Selleck look in my younger years, my behavior was more like an Osmond brother. I didn't drink nor smoke and never even dreamed of breaking the law. Actually, I have great respect for the law. As I got older, I became kind of confused with the law sometimes. For example, back in 2015, California had eased laws on carrying weed. But across the state line to Nevada, you could still be charged for felony if you carried more than 1 ounce of marijuana. I have not known enough to judge the weed nor people who use it for recreational purposes. But as a law-abiding citizen, I thought I only need to follow the law. Fast forward to 2018. We're all 3 years older and the marijuana felony map also has changed. Now we have the green light states all over the map. And the green states that allow medical use of marijuana, and then the gray zone. A policeman told me how the court released almost everyone held on marijuana cases after California passed Proposition 64 in November 2016. And the stock in cannabis companies skyrocketed. Investors were moving in to dig their pot of green gold. If the government thinks it is okay to grow, sell, and use marijuana, the weed must be safe and good for everyone. Plus, the state takes in 15% on the taxes. Isn't that a win-win for everyone? Like I said, I am totally a law-abiding citizen, so I'm not going to even try to argue with the law. But because I am an insurance professional, I want to share with you what you may not know. There are things we should and must do, or you may be paying for someone's stockpile of green cash. Even before the passing of Proposition 64, growing marijuana has been a business with huge profits. Because many people were having weed and enjoying it under the so-called medical use. And we have not heard about some mass shootings from smoking potheads. So maybe it is safe. But do we have enough laws to monitor the production of weed? Before the passing of Proposition 64, I think people could grow a few plants at home. With limited distribution channels, the law was aimed to help the ones needing them to have the plants for self-consumption. However, how many people really follow the law? To hide their crops, many would rent a big house and turn the house into a cannabis farm. Of course, without the owner's knowledge. They usually use someone with good credit. Rent the home and then change the plumbing and grow weed inside the home. With constant watering, mold will grow inside the home with the weed. The growers will harvest several crops and then terminate the lease, as the mold will make the house uninhabitable after about 1 year. The smart ones will paint the inside and change the carpet, leaving the problems with the poor landlord. I have a friend who had to deal with such issues after the tenant moved out. She filed a claim with her homeowner insurance company, but the company quickly rejected the claim because they said there's no proof of the weed growing, nor can they prove who caused the damages. They asked the owner for the tenant's information and was promptly provided that information. Instead of honoring the homeowner's claim, the adjuster called the previous tenant and asked, "Did you plant weed and cause mold growth in the house?" What do you think the tenant would say? The poor owner now has another big problem to worry about. The previous tenant, who had no regards as to the law and the landlord's property rights, now knows who to go after if they wish to cause more trouble. The landlord then provided the witness who did the walkthrough with the previous tenant and showed the insurance company the growing pot, fertilizer, and dry weeds that were left in the trash can, and a letter of complaint ready to file with the Department of Insurance. Her insurance company eventually agreed to honor the claim. However, imagine how difficult it is to get insurance coverage if you did not have such evidence. Now, maybe you feel fortunate that you don't have to worry about this because you don't have a home. Well, with so many of these looter tenants, many landlords would not even rent to you if you don't have excellent credit and rental history and good income. Do you know how many people are now forced to live with families or rent rooms because they can't get a home? Of course, if you are a homeowner, you have even more to worry. Even if you don't have a home to rent out, your insurance premium has increased 50% in just the last 10 years. And many insurance companies will try to avoid paying you. Are there maybe some lines of exclusion you fail to pay attention to? Either way, most of us are paying a price for someone's greed. The marijuana growers can afford to grow in properties for growers, but they don't want to pay the premium nor go through the troubles. They just want to rip you off. If you think destroying houses to jack up their profits can satisfy their hunger for money, you're wrong. Most of them will tamper with electric meters to maximize their profit. They take advantage of the technology advances as utility companies use smart meters and no longer check meters on site. In some cases, owners were left with six-figure electrical charges after getting back a house with no utilities and full of mold. When that happens, do you know who loses? The utility company may be unable to recoup their loss, but have you ever heard about an electrical company losing money? No, because we would share their loss through price increases, tier pricing, peak penalties, etc., etc. Recently, my friend's home was burnt. She charged below market rent to a family begging for a place to stay. But that was only the tenant on paper. They turned her property to a marijuana farm, destroyed the home, and then burnt the house. The grower tenant kept the fire from her so he can continue growing the crops. But to add salt to the wound, he did not even pay rent. And the timing was calculated so the crop could be harvested before she knows. Sadly, the trusting landlord was ruined financially and emotionally, as she just can't understand why someone she helped would do such things to her. Maybe you feel sorry for this poor owner. Maybe you feel sorry for her poor choice of tenant. But you probably feel there is nothing you can do. But please think, this is not just someone else's trouble. This can cost you too. From extra insurance premiums to skyrocketing rents. We should demand strict regulation on marijuana production. Only properties with the owner's permission should be able to grow and sell weed. Buying weed from unknown sources will encourage people to take advantage of the void in the law. The void that allows people to take and destroy others' property for profit and to be outside the jurisdiction. Like I said before, I don't know enough to judge the passing of Proposition 64, but I have witnessed the problems that destroy properties and people's lives. I know something should be done. Maybe it takes too long for legislation to perfect the law, but maybe consumers can buy only from stores with a confirmed legitimate source. This is Ken Peters. Thank you for watching.